Today, I'd like to continue our journey through chapter 8 of the Gospel of Matthew, particularly in terms of Jesus as a teacher. In verse 19, the scribes had mentioned about Jesus being teacher, and so it's good to reflect on exactly what this title, teacher, refers to. And it's used in Matthew in many different senses. One of the senses Matthew uses in it is also for a person who is well disposed, who's called a teacher. For example, in Matthew chapter 19, verse 16, it says, "Now someone approached him and said, 'Teacher, what good must I do to gain eternal life?'" So the idea of the teacher is somebody who is kind of knowledgeable, who understands about eternal life, who understands about God, is well disposed towards God, is a spiritual person. So that again would be another understanding of this concept of teacher in the Gospel of Matthew. In terms of all of these uses, what could we conclude in terms of this? We could say that teacher is a title that reveals a certain recognition of who Jesus is at a certain level. But really, it's inadequate. The title teacher does not really sum up the essence, the complete essence of who Jesus is. So it has certain aspects in terms of Jesus. It recognizes the specialness of Jesus, the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom of Jesus. But it doesn't give a real full understanding, a complete understanding of who Jesus is. So if we were just to limit it and say, well, Jesus was a teacher, certainly he was and is, and always will be, of course. It gives us a certain insight, a certain level of understanding, but not the full picture that we're going to get as we really explore completely who Jesus is. In verse 20, Jesus answers this inquiry about teacher. And he says, "Foxes have dens, and birds of the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head." So again, if you're approaching Jesus and you're saying, well, Jesus, you're a teacher, I would like to follow you. Jesus, well, like, wait a minute now. You know what you're getting into. Even these foxes, they have places where they can go, birds, they have their nests, but if you're following me, I have nowhere to rest. Jesus was a vagabond, we would say, right? A roaming teacher, a roaming prophet, going from place to place, and where are you going to sleep at night? That becomes an issue. Where's your next meal going to come from? All of these become issues when you're a follower of Jesus, right? You're giving your life fully to this mission of proclaiming the good news, of sharing with people about God and about God's life. And that's your dedication, that's your mission. But in terms of the practicalities of life, the eating, the sleeping, the drinking, the healthcare, the education, all of these are very practical questions. And Jesus is honest. He says, if you follow me, I have nowhere to lay my head. You're going to be in for the same reality. You're not going to know where you're going to be sleeping at night if you follow me. So Jesus is giving a challenge. Now, it's interesting that Jesus uses the term Son of Man. So naturally, we have the term teacher that we have been exploring. Now we have a new term, Son of Man. For most of us, well, Son of Man, what could this possibly mean? Son of a man and a woman, through marriage, conception, there's a son. Son of Man, what? It's unusual. It's not a title that we certainly would use of anybody. We would say, well, hello, Son of Man, how are you doing today? That's not something that would be part of our everyday experience, right? So what is Jesus referring to when he uses this term, Son of Man? Well, the most famous passage is the passage in the book of Daniel. Of course, Jesus knows his scriptures well, frequently will give us allusions to various scriptures. So perhaps Jesus is referring to this famous passage in Daniel 7:13-14, which goes like this. As the visions during the night continued, this is now Daniel talking about the visions that he's having. The book of Daniel is part of the apocalyptic literature in the Hebrew scriptures, which talks about visions, revelations, the ending of the times, extraordinary events, unusual occurrences. And so he is having these visions, and he says, as the visions during the night continued, I saw one like a son of man. So he uses the title son of man, but doesn't explain exactly what it means. I saw one like a son of man coming on the clouds of heaven. Here is this son of man, and he's coming. And he's on the clouds of heaven, so again, extraordinary, unusual. When he reached the Ancient One, and was presented before him, and the Ancient One, we would think, in Daniel, would probably refer to God the Father, the Creator, God. He received dominion. This is now the Son of Man, is receiving dominion, glory, and kingship. So here is the Son of Man, and he's going before God, and he's getting all of these wonderful things. You kind of line up and say, well, I'd like to be a Son of Man too. Give me some glory, give me some kingship, give me some dominion. I mean, this sounds pretty good. Nations and peoples of every language serve him. So the Son of Man is served by nations, by peoples, but of every language. So this is pretty all-inclusive. The Son of Man is taking in a very universal scope of people and places. It's amazing what the Son of Man covers. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. So this dominion that's been given to him by the Ancient One, by God the Father, is everlasting. It's not going to be just a temporary dominion for a week, a month, a year. It's an everlasting dominion. So it's a forever dominion. And this dominion shall not be taken away. His kingship shall not be destroyed. So this Son of Man is an amazing figure in the book of Daniel. He has all this glory, dominion, power. He has everlasting kingship. It's never going to be destroyed. So Jesus, using this title from Daniel of himself, is revealing himself certainly as a lot more than just a teacher. He is an extraordinary person who is universal in scope, whose power will never end, whose glory comes from God the Father. So this title becomes then a very rich title if we take the background from the book of Daniel and we see what Jesus is referring to here. Now, how does Daniel set it up? In Daniel, it's set up as a contrast. The Son of Man is in contrast to the beasts who symbolize worldly interests opposed to God. So on the one side you have the Son of Man, but on the other side you have these beasts. And these beasts are basically opposed to God. They're against God. They're against the things of God. So the Son of Man is trying to overcome these beasts by advocating for God and the things of God. The Son of Man represents in Daniel the glorified people of God. So the Son of Man is the leader who has received the glory and dominion from God, and who brings that glory and dominion to the people, so that they themselves become part of the glory of God. So the Son of Man has this very important role. Now Jesus uses this title to refer to himself as the one in whom and through whom the salvation of God's people comes to be realized. So Jesus is bringing this glory, this dominion, this salvation from God, the Ancient One, the Father, the Creator. He is the link. He's bringing it to the people so that the people themselves can experience salvation. They can experience glory. They can experience kingship. They can experience the fullness of the glory of God. So Jesus, in using this title, is really saying a lot, not only about what his mission is, which is from God, from the Ancient One, to bring the glory, to bring the salvation. So he's saying a lot about the mission, but he's saying even more about who he is as a person. That he has this special, close relationship with God as the Son of Man.